this, for our listeners, is like a fun word that it has a meaning and a definition, but until like I paid, a couple grand to like take this course that basically like reveals your blind spots. It's neither here nor there, but they use the word.
No big deal, just total transformation of your life.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tattoo Guardians podcast show. And today, myself, Mr. Matt Clemmer, and my brother Hip sit down and start a great conversation about all around this topic, this thing called leadership. What it means, what it is, and all the ins and outs. And this is a quick one. We just wanted to come and give you just like an hour of power together. And we realize there's so much more to cover on this topic that this will be part one of our series entitled Leadership. Hope you all enjoy it today.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Tattoo Guardians podcast. I am Hip, and I am accompanied in person by one of the other hosts, Mr. Matthew Clemmer. Joshua Carlton will not be here this evening. Today is his son Elliot's 13th birthday.
Happy birthday, Elliot.
Happy birthday, Elliot.
Yeah. Hey, you want to bring this up a little, or are you cool with that?
Yeah, we can bring it up some.
We didn't know what we were going to talk about tonight on coming down here, and I asked Kip. That's good. What's a topic that you think our audience could stand and deserves to hear tonight? And what'd you say?
Leadership.
Man, he came at me with leadership, y'all.
And, we had a talk earlier today. Aisle 9's busting at the seams. And through my journey tattooing with the crew at Aisle 9 and just seeing how we are, how we hit, and how we operate, it's almost like it's just par for the course. And what I mean by that is like the more successful I've become and I see my brothers and sisters and the more successful they become, it's like leadership's just part of it. Like you fall into that realm, and it's an important, I think, a very important topic to kind of get some understanding of like what leadership is, and if you're a boss, are you a leader? So early in recovery, I was handed some books, and
Could you even read them?
No, I like the ones with pictures.
Yeah.
But my leader, my sponsor, my mentor in recovery, told me basically to get a dictionary, and the reason why is because I'll hear words and I'll assume that, and that's a key word, assume that I understand and know the definition of it, and it just hit different when I would like hear it and like, I kind of know what that means vaguely, but let me look and see like what the dictionary has to offer. And just by simply doing that, it started giving me like a different definition of it. And not only that, but it made it more livable, if that makes sense.
Palatable, obtainable.
Yeah, totally.
So tell us the difference, like from what you thought that word meant to where then when you actually looked it up, it landed different. You got a different perspective on it.
Right. So, and not only, I think it's the act of physically putting in just that little bit of extra work to go that extra mile to do that extra thing. So I would look up the definition, and it's great because before the podcast I had tons of examples of words when I started my journey in recovery that like I thought I knew but I didn't, and none of them are come to light now. But what I do have is I've pulled up the definition of leadership. So it's pronounced leadership, and it's a noun. The action of leading a group of people or an organization. The state or position of being a leader. The leaders of an organization, country, etc. So that's the definition of leadership, right? which, I think we all got a firm grasp on that. So now I'm looking up the definition of boss. A person who is in charge of a worker, group, or organization. That's the noun. The verb is giving someone orders in a dominating manner. Adjective, excellence, outstanding, which I guess. But even the definitions of what being brought up, and me reading them off, and as I was reading them off already, just leadership or a leader sounds more comfortable to me, just because just the boss seems kind of demanding, and working with the crew I work with, like, you have set a good example of like someone who, will ask you to do something, and not just ask of you to do it and tell you to do it, but are willing to like put on the gloves and take the trash out, to scrub the toilet, to actually like get into the trenches, like where the rubber meets the road, and lead by example versus just by exclamation points, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I believe that, those are powerful distinctions to make, because I've worked in shops where people are like, boss this, boss that, and at aisle 9, we know who like the owner is, but it's like at any given day, if you're a new client, you can walk in and we want it to feel like the person you're talking to is the boss or the leader or the owner.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, because it allows us to not leave room for big eyes or little U's. Like we're all equal.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And for you listeners, kind of what he's bringing up. So technically on paper, as of right now, I'm the owner of aisle 9. And he said, we know it at the shop. And the reason why he just says, because it's known, but guess what? We keep it on the DL. You will not see, nor have you ever seen anywhere on my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, where it says owner, right? Even when I go live, I introduce myself also as an artist who gets to work here. And I'm an artist alongside my partner here, Hip, who's also an artist here at Aisle 9, right? So, and what he's mentioned is the way we operate on such high level of care, class, and professionalism that we knew from day one when people came into our house, whoever they were dealing with, like Hip said, we wanted them to think or wonder, oh, well, this person must run the show here. They must be the boss, until someone else comes in the room and is dealing with such professionalism, class, and walking in such authority. You can see the people thinking to themselves, or maybe they're the owner, until someone else walks in and handling their clients like, well, maybe that dude's running the place. Till someone else comes in, well, maybe that chick is the owner, right? And I love it to where it's either confusing or everyone's like, any of these people could be the owner here. And that's the way we like it, right?
Totally. And, just that mindset, and then kind of cultivating that, it spreads. And so like, earlier today, me and Matt had like another meeting with a new hire that's coming on. And they're coming from a shop that's kind of rough around the edges, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But again, like the leadership skills that we look for in individuals and want to portray, there's things we do at our shop like the honor system.
Yeah.
And like you said it best this morning, when you were basically saying like, a good handshake and your word is all we need, because automatically right there, your word, if you hold to your word and have integrity in it, that's an attribute that comes from a leader or having leadership. And so we kind of foster that to the point to where, I've worked at shops where like you get paid out weekly. I've worked at shops where I don't get to hold or have any transactions with the clients. And now, don't get me wrong, I get why that happens because you can't trust everybody. But a thing about being a good leader is like hiring slow and firing fast.
Man.
So we want to bring on the right type of people to keep fostering that environment. So it's the honor system.
That's right.
You deal with your own money. We want you to give us your word and honor it, that you'll be honest and have integrity with that. You pay out cash to the shop at the end of the night, and then you take yours and do with it as you please.
Love it.
And so it's just the honor system is important to us. And of course, I believe too, and especially with that honor system, there's a level of vulnerability there, which I've learned is a spiritual principle. So there's just so much in the last 4 years that I've learned, and it sounds like I'm riding the nuts of aisle 9, but like there's things that weren't ever addressed to me or taught to me, or I wasn't able to receive the message until now, and just like my current state. And this topic came to me today just because like a bunch of stuff is being asked of me, and I was almost fearful because like I believe your exact words, Matt, were like something along the lines of you're already a leader, because like you asked me to step up with some of these new people.
I actually didn't ask you to. I asked you if you wanted to.
Yeah, you did, and you said something along the lines like not to take away from who you are because you're a leader now.
Yep.
But I just, for a brief second, remember thinking like, man, it just sounds like more on my plate.
Yep.
But again, you can't, when you become successful, and my level of success, I didn't come this far to come this far. Like there's more to come.
Yeah.
But this is just one of those things that like come along with that. And it's basically up to me. I got the option now I can be a leader and apply good leadership skills, or I can be a boss, which, and I'm not saying like if you consider yourself a boss, like,
doesn't have to be an either or.
Right.
The best boss is a true leader. The best leaders are the best bosses. But I think the distinction you're making is not every boss, not every manager, just because they've been given that position. When you read the definition of a boss, the words in the first description was someone that's in charge of.
Right.
In the leadership definition, it was someone who leads a group.
Right.
Versus just been put in charge. And we all know there are bosses, managers that have, yes, been put in charge. They've been given the authority, the title, but don't walk in it powerfully.
Right. And it's like that meme that's always shared, and it says like an example of a boss, and it shows like the dude whipping the people that he's a boss
and
over.
He's leading from the back.
Yeah. And then a leader has the sled and is in the front,
On
like
the front
pulling
lines.
with them.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, just with like learning this and taking this all in, there's so much stuff that comes piling in different scenarios that there's no cookie cutter way to, one, address them other than like a vague system of like principles to follow. I heard James Wedmore say like 2 things that a leader could use to lead his group is the vision and the values. Yes. And the vision is where we're going. The values are how we're getting there.
Yeah.
And, recently I kept hearing you say and like talk to different people that like leadership, to be a good leader, like, a manager will manage a whole place with like the same regiment. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Manage everyone across the board the same way.
Right.
But a leader.
So what's a leader?
A leader will manage everyone on an individual level, discerning his audience, knowing that, yes, we've got values, we got systems, proper protocol in this place that we all have to like understand and follow, but to actually pull the best out of you, where a manager or a boss would just like lay down the law across the board and treat everyone and holler at everyone the same. Well, not everyone's the same. And
right.
A leader will lead people on an individual level to check in with you individually to make sure you're good and you're aligned with the overall vision, and leading people on an individual level to make sure they're good, they're on par, then the whole is taken care of, but yeah, big difference between a true leader and just a manager's trying to
So you're saying that, let's say the problem is the shop. It's got to run. So instead of trying to, like, I don't know if you want to say cut corners or do it a more simple way, address everybody the exact same way and kind of hope that it fucking works out.
Yeah.
Or you could actually go to each individual person and then kind of, I don't know, like enroll them in the vision of what you see this being, and do that with each individual person, and then now they're on board and they can see the vision too, versus like blindly just following direction.
And both need to happen, right? So both needs to happen for it to be effective. So yes, we can call a shop meeting and lay that down, lay the vision down, everyone collectively as a shop, and hope that everyone gets it and receives it. But then a true leader after that meeting is going to go and make sure on an individual level that everyone got it. Or a true leader can have the individuals first and individually install the vision, the message, in preparation for our collective shop meeting that's just going to go that much more seamless and strong because everyone individually has already been briefed on it. Either way works, but what I'm getting at is, yes, you lead collectively and individually. Both is what really keeps the ship aligned.
And whatever reason, I something I appreciate about Nelson Mandela was one of his attributes is that when he would like have his group meetings or like brainstorm events or whatever you want to call them, he wouldn't say anything until the very end, once everyone said their word and he found out where everyone's at and what quarrels were happening or any grievances or wins. He wouldn't share till the very end, so he knew how to address everyone individually at the same time and as the group as a whole. And I just appreciate that. And like, what a better, example than him.
Well, and he's living by example. And one main thing is that leaders are learners.
Right.
Right. You and I are already mentors to several, right? But we also still have mentors and coaches. You and I still have an empty cup, meaning you and I are constantly learning, constantly open. How, God, universe, what do I still have yet to be able to see? What can I see? Show me my own blind spots. You and I are always hungry to learn. True leaders are learners. Back to your Nelson analogy. He's at the table. He has the wisdom to be slow to speak. He's also mastering being a listener. But in that moment, he's also being a learner. And he is literally listening and learning and discerning his own audience, his own team, his own squad, and figuring out where they're at in their head and their heart today. He's learning that, taking that data in, all the while empowering them to share. Obviously, if they're all sharing in his presence, it's because he's created a space that it's welcomed and they're safe to. They're empowered to actually voice their opinion. So that's a good sign of leadership, that people feel like they can come to the table and really share their heart, knowing that he's going to be listening, and he is, and he's learning to empower himself at the end. Now he knows his audience, knows where to take them. He knows where they're at in the vision. So yeah, just that one example, there are layers of leadership there just by him being a leader.
Which there's a lot to unpack.
Yep.
Because, you said a listener, which I'm constantly trying to be better at that, but I'm like doing it stubbornly.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole art form in itself. To be
so
a good
much
listener.
so to not only be a good listener, but not only to retain it, but to be able to actually reiterate it back to the person that's sharing so that they know and actually feel heard and are now able to confirm you just heard them because you were able to reiterate and be like, what I'm hearing you say is. So that really helps.
And it's funny you say that because my sponsor, he's I think he's like working on his master's degree in psychology. And that's one of the things like psychologists will do to reaffirm and give peace to the person that's being vulnerable and sharing, that you're actually listening. And it was good advice to me because I'm one of those listeners that basically listen to hear myself talk. Like, I want to hear what you got to say so I can hurry up and say something back. And then I want to hear more about what you're going to say so I can say something back, versus like just shutting the fuck up, listening to what they have to say. And I don't know about you, but like when someone's talking and like I'm trying to listen, I'm like so focused on being present that like I get in my own head of like, am I even being present? And then I'm missing what they're saying. So I guess to just like observe those thoughts as they come through and then reiterate what they were saying back to me, so you don't just seem like that the husband that the smile and nod.
Yep. So you can't reiterate in the moment that which you're not even receiving. So you got to be able to listen enough to really get where the person's coming from and hear it enough to where you can reiterate it. Here's some next level leadership to actually remember and retain that shit. Because what's even more impressive is when you have a second encounter with that person, let's say it's months later, and you're able to recant or recall some of the last things they said to you. That'll blow anyone's mind. They'll be like, my God, I can't believe you remembered that. And you were actually listening to me. And you as the leader can say, yes, that's what I do. And I actually care.
Right. And I appreciate that, like about you. And then another mentor in my life, because they're able to do that. Like I am horrible with remembering people's names, and I don't know what it is. I think that subconsciously I'm just wanting to make such a first impression and look worthy in their eyes that they say their name, and I just do the handshake and follow the motions, only to, as soon as they get done telling me, completely fucking forget.
Totally.
Man.
And you know what? That's so common because you and I practice that and we know how important that is. But what most people aren't good at, because so many people be like, yeah, I forget immediately. I forget their name 5 seconds after they said it. Give yourself some room. Welcome. Everyone does that. What people need to feel comfortable about getting better at is owning that shit. And then 2 minutes later, to have the confidence and comfort to ask them their name again. Simply be like, I'm so sorry. What was your first name again? That's right. And I'll have to do that sometimes 4 or 5 times. But so many people feel bad about forgetting your name, then they feel bad and they won't say it, and now they don't know your name.
Yep.
Instead of just straight up being authentic, letting them know you're human too, and be like, my bad, I forgot. What was your first name again? That's right. Thank you.
And it's funny because instead of just being honest and having the humility and asking again, I think me and Josh talked about this. We've tried to, like, I don't know, for a client, for instance, when we go to finish the paperwork, we're like, what's your name again? And they're like, or will you spell your name for me? And they're like, J-I-M. And you're like, oh yeah, So you kind of like even embarrass yourself more because you're deceiving and you're dishonest, or that lack of humility to just be like, hey, you know what? I suck at names. What's your name again? I apologize.
Man.
Which in itself is a leadership skill.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And all that, how you were talking about Nelson, being able to like cultivate a environment where people can actually trust you, or trust their grievances with you, or trust like that. If I don't know, if you're anything like me, I think my way is the best way, but to be a true leader, you have to apply some humility, some honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And that means being receptive to, like, hell, even like one of the new people we brought on. If they've got a good idea about something, I believe that like being a true leader is like listening to it and digesting it and, reflecting on it before like pulling the trigger and being like, nah, that's stupid. It's like this for a reason, because it's like, I've learned that there's no reason to just, I don't know, for whatever reason, I want to judge someone where they're at in life, that lack of experience. Maybe they're younger than me. I used to have a big problem with like taking advice from people that were younger than me, or that did something I was doing less time than me, which it's funny because like a lot of people in the tattoo industry, kind of are that way. You know, I've heard other tattooists, you know, try to learn from somebody or asking some questions, and they were standoffish. And from my experience, when I received that from different artists that I was trying to learn from, or just had questions about, and hell, like being willing to pay to like play, I'll put some skin in the game. It was like they were one-trick ponies, but they didn't want to reveal that's what it was. So it was like that lack of humility and being vulnerable to someone that they don't know, or maybe like fear because, you know, I may have not been in the game as long, but I can fucking saturate a little bit better than they can, or whatever the reason. But I've had like that arrogance pushed back on me. So cultivating like a place of trust is important.
Yeah, it really is. And always being a student, you know what I'm saying? That's why like a real leader will receive. But, you know, another sign of a leader is if you're a good one at all, then we should be able to tell it, starting with who's even following you. I know several dudes that consider themselves leaders, but if you take one look at their life, ain't no one following them. They're not leading anyone. They're just a leader in their head, but they're not one at all. A big part about a leader is, like you said, leading a group or an organization of people, you know, and this comes down to, well, who do you follow? Who do you listen to? And so that's usually a telltale sign of a good leader versus someone not. Another one that you just touched on a minute ago is really no ego. Yes, we got certain systems, things, process. This is how we do things here, from learning that this is the best way. But it's not to the point where our ego rises up and now we're unteachable in case someone, even if it's the new guy, has an epiphany and thinks of even a better way. Our ego won't keep us closed off to that. We're still open to what's possible and we'll let anyone share. But then is when we walk in wisdom. We make the final decision on what's really going to serve us best, not based on ego or whose idea it was and it wasn't mine, so we're squashing it, right? And so, yeah, you're touching on that too. The difference there is, you know, no ego. Did you have, what else did you have? Did you have a few things to ask me or no?
Yeah. And, you know, I was even thinking about this when I was talking about like being a good listener, because like for our viewers, the people that are watching, like when I was asking that question, still now, I've basically like, me and Matt like to kind of get somewhat of a format, which can always be better, but kind of touch base on some things that we want to hit on. So like, I'm trying to be present in this conversation, be a good listener, keep track of like what we're supposed to be talking about. The whole time in my head, that negative self-talk that we all have and we all go through is like running rampant, but it's like I'm choosing to stay present in the moment and try to be a good listener. And it's like I'll probably look back at this one day and remember this exact moment and be like, holy shit, I was actually listening right then.
I thought you were going to say to any of our viewers who are watching this on YouTube, they can see you, and when I start talking, that you're already thinking of the next thing.
Well, I was, and I am, but I have to keep like, I want to keep eye contact with you. But when I start doing that, I'm like, I got a booger on my face. What's he looking at me like that for? You know, do I look silly? Is my face greasy? So I'll look down here and still be listening to you, but try to like not have dead air time. So it's like, okay, so what's the next thing we can fucking touch on? Wait, you got to be present in the moment. And it's like, you know, it's easy to get lost in like these attributes that like leaders have, because it is stressful. And it can be stressful. You know, I think manageable chunks, Josh always talks about manageable chunks. And like, I remember watching The Secret, and it talked about like, you know, basically like, thank God that like what you attract don't happen right then. And I think part of the show was like a dude thinking like, man, I wish I had an elephant, and like he's eating a bowl of cereal and bam, an elephant just appears in his room and like wreaks havoc. And it's like, so be grateful that like things don't come when we think they should come. They come when we're ready to receive them. So it's like, yeah, the more successful you get, the more you become in a leadership role. And when I say success, like you were just talking about like who follows them. Yeah. Well, if no one's following them, I personally wouldn't define that as being successful. That would be more like denial. Don't even know I'm lying. So
if that dude's calling himself a leader, because there's plenty of successful people out there that's successful in business or what they do, but they're not leading an organization. They're just individually successful.
Right.
But if we're talking about somebody that's self-proclaimed calling themselves a successful leader, we should be able to take a look at their life and see success leaves clues, right? So
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
yeah.
Totally. And so, now that I've already broken the fourth wall and let you all know that I got notes here, we'll go ahead and move on to enrollment.
And Hip and I are timing ourselves just for fun. We're making this a quick one. We got the clock running. We've got 24 minutes and 10 seconds left.
Okay, dope. Because
Yeah.
I was over here like,
Yep, we're good. I'm keeping time.
Dope.
So what did you just say, though?
Enrollment.
Enrollment. Yeah.
Which this, for our listeners, is like a fun word that it has a meaning and a definition, but until like I paid, a couple grand to like take this course that basically like reveals your blind spots. It's neither here nor there, but they use the word.
No big deal. Just total transformation of your life.
Well, they use the word enrollment, and they use it in like, I don't know, maybe they, again, here's me assuming, right? The first thing that I started out with is like, we shouldn't assume, but
So do you want to be your authentic self and use your dictionary and look up enrollment?
well, totally. So yeah, but like I was saying, they use enrollment as in like,
And while you're looking at, go ahead. I was going to
No.
touch on it while you're looking it up, unless you, the simultaneous king, you can look it up and keep your thought.
no.
Okay. So what he's looking up this word for is because another attribute of good leadership is leaders need to be able to master the art of enrollment, enrolling people into your idea, into the plan, into the mission, into the vision. It's one thing. And so two major things, it's the leader's job. One, it's the leader's job to always have the vision. If one doesn't exist, it's the leader's job to create vision. Then to be able to enroll the rest of the team and the organization into that vision to where everyone takes the vision upon. They not only see the vision, they're aligned with it, they're excited, it's lighting them up on their insides. They see their own individual personal role that is necessary for them to actually play their role and their part for this whole vision collectively to actually be pulled off well, to manifest. We need everybody in the game. That's why there's a first baseman and a second baseman. Like, they both have their roles. But for the whole team to play this game and to win, we need everybody playing their individual roles, i.e. walking in their individual vision. But it's the leader's job to create, come up with the vision, then to be able to break it down in a way that everyone else can get with it, starting with seeing it too for themselves and seeing not only does this help the team collectively or the organization, but even their own individual benefit from it, their individual participation, their individual role on it, and how the rest of the team's counting on them. So coming up with a vision is important. Then turn around and enroll you into the vision. Leaders need to get good at enrollment. What's Dick Webster say about that?
And it's not too far off. So noun, the action of enrolling or being enrolled. The number of people, and they use an example, the number of people enrolled at school or college. And I guess just like, I've always perceived it as that, like, something school-based. But the way that this seminar that we took was teaching it is just like Matt talks about the vision. So it's like, I always structured it as like something that an institution would do, where it isn't. It can be an individual thing. And, I had a question when you were talking about, if you don't have the vision yet, then as a leader, you need to create the vision.
Yeah.
So here's a question, right? Would this be a good attribute of a leader? Let's say, boom, you're wanting to do something. I don't know. Let's say make wicker baskets.
Okay.
Well, that ain't even the thing yet. Let's say that you're just, you want to lead and you want to do something. You got a dream to create something and you don't know what that is. But I would like to follow your lead. So is it a good leader to maybe ask me like, well, what could we do? What could I do? I don't know where to go. And then me be like, let's make fucking fucking baskets.
Yeah. Okay.
I keep wanting to think of those expensive ones. They got a weird name. They're like from Massachusetts. Bergenbalger something. Fuck, I don't know. But
I'm trying to get clear on your question.
so my question is that if you don't have the vision or know what direction you want to go with it, but you got like people that are wanting to follow you and believe in you and want you to lead them until they can lead themselves, instead of like thinking like, I'm the leader, I've got to come up with the vision. Will you open up and, ask for like, well, where should we go? What should the vision look like?
Sure. So this is real hypothetical
So, yeah.
and situational.
Yeah.
But is there ever a time, if you're saying, can a leader who's supposed to have the vision and usually the one they're counting on to know which direction we're headed, also walk in the humility of admitting I don't know?
Yes.
And still be in power? And the answer is yes, right? Because you've learned and helped teach me, because I'm human and I'm supposed to be the strong one, have it all together, blah, blah. But even on my off days, it created more strength and more bonding for us when I would admit to you that I'm struggling or a flaw. I remember you used to love it when you'd notice that I was battling with something. It'd almost get you excited to see me struggle.
But
right?
see, you say that a lot.
Oh.
Well, it's true. I fucking get fired up over that shit. If you're a badass tattoo artist, I want to see your fucking trash or your mistakes or the shit you don't like.
Yeah.
If you're a leader, I want to see you fucking fold
Yeah.
or get stressed out and need to call a timeout.
Yeah.
But I think maybe I'm an anomaly. Maybe I'm not. Maybe some people like, seeing the authenticity of the process.
Well, and that's knowing when and when not to, right? But I did realize as a leader, it's strong and powerful for me to admit my flaws, fears, doubts, struggles too, but then still lead by example. So, because the leader's not exempt from those things. The leader's not supposed to be so strong that they don't have down days, right? And I used to think that I would hide my down days. Now I realize a great leader shares even in those down days, and we can learn how to be in the midst of those down days, right?
Right. And it's funny because I like to see your flaws or anyone I have on a pedestal or want leadership from. I want to see your flaws so that way I can be perfect and not make the same ones, which is like a double-edged sword, because it's like, well, yeah, I want to see you fuck up to know that it's attainable, but once I find out that it's obtainable, I don't want anybody to see my fuck ups because it's got to be perfect because it's me and I lack self-worth and blase, 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 and run that whole bullshit.
Well, and here's another thing with some of that is another good attribute of a leader is their ability to empower others, right? Not only to create the vision or have the vision and to enroll others in the vision, but then literally to empower them in their identity on their part and their role for this vision, right? And so even if that starts with empowering them and together let's create the next vision, I believe that could work too.
So basically you're saying if you want people to be successful, set them up for success?
Yeah. And to empower them, starting with like, here's the vision. We need you to be a part of this. We want you to be a part of this. We see we're all still growing, but you already have strengths and weaknesses, right? And so we need your top two strengths over here. And you do it better than anyone on this team. While you're doing that,
to counteract our weaknesses.
That's right. And that's my way of empowering you into the vision on the team. But this is something that you love doing, that you're all about. Like, this is where the visions were aligned. This is why we're working together. It's because what you want wants you. What I want wants me. And what we want wants us. Like, it's aligned, right? But So to answer your original question, if it ever came down to where we're stagnant right now, we're not going anywhere, we achieved the last vision, now we need new vision and don't have it, I'm sure it's a rare scenario because most leaders not only either A, get impregnated with vision, or the vision exists or presents itself to all of us, and even if the vision hit us all at once, it takes the leader to step up and say, okay, yes to this vision, and turn around to everybody and be like, are we in? You in? You in? Are we in? Let's go, right? So yeah, some more attributes. What else you got over there?
Okay, I got a question. And I have a problem with this, but it's something like, when putting myself in a position of like what I think leadership is, like it can be small to the huge, but there's things like, I don't know, and these may be horrible fucking examples, but by no means am I getting political, but like things that like presidents do. Here you've got like one of the most extreme stressful jobs, and I didn't really think of, well, I knew it was stressful, but like how it shows was like with Obama when he first started to when he ended, like you could see more wrinkles and like kind of grayed, so you could tell that like physically it was weighing on him. But like the way that like presidents or leaders of big congregations and shit, or even the tattoo artists that throw like fucking Derb at Hell City, like being in a position like that and being able to control your emotions. So the question, right, is like, because I don't feel I'm good at this, but how do you control not making it personal when things don't go your way or expectations ain't met? Because it's like, also with being a leader, your word carries weight. So, and you're powerless over people, places, and things. So like, how do you not take it as a personal assault? Because I'm still working on like, I've got who I am and how I operate when it comes to clients. And if you've seen my Instagram, you pretty much know, like, it's safe to say that, the clients that come in and want to like be there throughout the whole design process and like control it, and you kill that. And one of the ways to do that is to basically be like, if you see and you like my Instagram, it's safe to say that every tattoo you've seen on there, they didn't see it until day of. And I'm bringing this up because it happened earlier today with a client that I'm not tattooing him. I'm out of his price range is what he said, but I already with that, he was basically trying to control a deal and the direction of the way it was going. And I was taking it personal, and I know not to take it personal, but it still like was creeping up. So it's like, people that I see, like I couldn't imagine, like, I don't know, being ready to go to fucking war and like having good composure and like speaking without a shaky voice or sounding nervous, and on top of that using like bigger elaborate words, and just remaining like calm and peaceful. When I put my feet in their shoes, it's like that's like a whole nother level of stress, because like even with my kids at home, like I'm finding myself like in this weird balance of like keeping my emotions in check, but it's just so hard. So how do you control your emotions when some shit flies off? Because there's been times at the shop, dude, when you're like, I'm fucking livid, or like you'll address something and then we'll go outside for a porch talk. Shout out to Sean King. And you'll tell me like I'm just fucking livid, and I'm just kind of shocked because I'm like, really? Because you handled that amazing. Because like I'm passive aggressive, right? So like when I get livid, I'll let it slide for so long, and then I'm instantly just like breaking shit. So that's an attribute that I really appreciate, with good leadership. And I just
so there's a lot to unpack there. I'll just touch on a couple of them. Number one, there's several things that's a universal language. You and I could go up, turn on the TV right now, and turn to a channel where someone is going up to stage, grab the mic, and speak in front of a large audience. You and I don't know this person, but immediately, if they're nervous, we can tell, can't we? We don't even know this person. We can tell they're nervous, frog in their throat, whatever.
Right.
You can also tell if someone's pissed, even if they're holding it in, their whole countenance changes. And so what I'm getting at is I learned years ago, it's hard to bear fruit when you're offended. That's why, even in the times where I'm heated and I need to, we've gotten better. Let's address things in a moment as much as we can. Let's not let days or weeks build and resentments. And it's always best to address something as soon as it happens, right? But if you're offended, you're not going to bear fruit, or you could cause harm, or it could land. And now we've got extra meanings attached to it that weren't necessary, which is why you'll see me like step out, take a break, woosah, vent to you, a brother, to kind of process it, to calm down. No, I've got to go in and do what you call push the button, still have that have the talk, but I also know I wanted to bear fruit. And so it's a constant practice to whatever you got to do to not get offended, because the second you are is the second you're taken out of the game. The documentary called I Am that you and I are fans of and have told our listeners to watch, they even do a scientific study, and they did all these studies, and this one thing they concurred is the second any human being gets mad, it actually makes you dumb. Like your brain starts firing off when people are pissed. That's why they usually will make stupid choices, because when you're angry, you actually become stupid almost, right? So it doesn't serve us in the moment if we're trying to bear fruit, because there's times where like your anger can be a gift to motivate you in a way that you needed motivated, that you wasn't going to hit it that hard until you got this angry. But still, most times in the moment, especially with HR dealing with people, the second you get mad is the second you're giving your power away.
Right.
And
but what about those, like you said, you got to give it a minute, then come back and address it and push the button. What about those times when you can't give it a minute and it has to be addressed right then and
So
there?
a true leader knows to try and master that in the moment. And you've watched me do it, you've watched me practice it, and you've watched me fail at it. And then that's when I'll be the first to own it. Like, you can tell the way I handled that, you could tell I was upset. You know what I'm saying? But a true leader is cognizant and truly cares and takes responsibility for their own emotions and puts them in check. But again, we're all human. But before we even get there, this is where who we are and how we operate and having proper systems in place. The more systems we have in place, the more that weeds out and prevents a lot of that, right? You mentioned things not going your way. But when you have systems in place, and when the systems in your business are so strump tight, it almost leads you to a win every time. It's like
structure is fun.
Structure's funneling you to the desired outcome. That's why you built the system that way. And so that should cut down on it not turning out the way you wanted to, because that's the way you funneled and designed your system. So on a business and a wisdom end, how we structure our process, our culture, who we are, how we operate should be so strong that it weeds out all the gray area for all this bullshit that we're going to have to continually deal with. Now, you and I have built Aisle 9 together since day one, and we've developed that over time. So today, there's things that we used to have to deal with weekly that we don't, it's not even on our radar no more. It's handled. There's a system for that. Someone's in charge of that. So systems, processes help. The rest, at the end of the day, in the moment, we got to hold on to our power. That's why I told you, good leaders keep their offense knob turned down. But this trickles over into leadership of your family, of your household, of your friends. Like, even if I want to bear fruit with my wife, and if we're at odds, like any human, she's going to receive from me better when I'm not pissed about it. Even if I'm like trying, she can tell if I'm offended, you know what I'm saying? So these practices trickle over into every area of our life. If you're a father, you've got to become a master at leading your children and enrolling them on the vision today. Now, I know you want to go to Kings Island, but we're going to grandma's. I got to enroll them into going to grandma's. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And if they get shitty with me, I'm practicing not with my offense knob low instead of me firing back. And I can love them through the art form with children of distraction instead of fighting with them, hammering on what we don't want to be talking about. The art of distraction with a new vision, enrolling them into something we can do, whatever. It's a continual awareness, but of being a listener, how to enroll them, and me keeping my power and not being quick to be offended, i.e. taking out the game. Second you're offending, you're no longer a help to the mission, to the vision, to the crew, to yourself. You're just taking out the game till you're no longer offended. I know this about me, which is why I try hard not to be taken out. And if I am getting taken out, I'll remove myself for a minute. But we don't always have that luxury because it's game time right now. We can't wait on halftime or timeout. You can't be taking out the game right now because the game's on. And this is where a real leader has got to be able to manage those emotions. You know, leaders have to manage time management. We're pulled in all kinds of directions. You've watched me fumble at that for years, being the yes man, wanting to do 10 things, only got time for 4, and 6 are mad, right?
Right.
Time management, but also energy management. Leaders got to manage their own energy because people are pulling. And guess what? If I let everyone pull on me, which I do, then when the 37th person today's pulled on me, if I seem short with them, if I seem like they're annoying, you know, in their world, it's the first time they've hollered at me. It's the only thing they've asked of me today. But I'm acting like it's the 37th time they've hollered at me.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
That's right. But they don't deserve that. This is why I've got to get good at managing my own energy along with my time, which goes hand in hand with my emotions, so that I can be the leader that you guys all, that I said I would be, that I say I am, that you're counting on me to be, you know. Another thing you brought up that's constantly, and this is one thing I love about you, and this is a leadership quality about you that I believe all great leaders carry, which is continual self-evaluation. Good, bad, right, or wrong, you fall down, you get up, you had a good day, an off day, a bad day. You're always at least evaluating yourself, living in front of the mirror to learn and to see like where you dropped the ball. How could I have done that better or differently? And next time, what am I going to do? And that's, again, leaders are learners. You're in a constant state of learning and reevaluating yourself. I think it was, there's a big study that went out this year. It's a real famous author. I can't think of his name right now, but they did a test on great leaders. And got common threads from all these great leaders. And the average amount of time that goes by where great leaders are continually reevaluating yourselves, I don't know where they got this number from, but supposedly it's 52 minutes. Like great leaders, every 52 minutes are reevaluating what it is they're even up to, or who am I being right now? And what I'm doing right now and who I'm being, is it still aligned with the vision of the man that I said I was going to be today? But they're checking in almost hourly. Like, am I still online? Am I still on par? Have I swayed? Do I need to get, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a relief because I thought you were going to be like every 52 seconds.
No, that's you.
Well, and I was going to say that because like sometimes I do that like every minute. And on other times, like maybe it'll pass. But man, it's another level of like, it feels good to do that. And it's good to be that's noticed.
Yes.
Because a lot of times I feel like, you know, is what I'm doing, is it serving a purpose? Like, because ultimately where I'm at today, I just want to leave, you know, not only tattooing better than I found it, but the world too. I want to have an impact that's a positive impact.
Come on.
Because I've just had too much. I've taken so much that like where I am today, like just simply like someone like showing up, shaking off the DTs, and they're like, you know, they honor me with being like, dude, it looks like you figured out a way to live. Will you teach me how to live? And it's like, fuck, dude, like I'm still figuring this out.
Come on, leaders are learners. We got 20 seconds left.
Well, man, there's a lot to fucking unpack from this, and it almost sounds like it needs like another episode.
Yes, I will say this was leadership part 1. I feel like we need to do several more of these, and we can break down and get specific. In the last 7 seconds, I want to leave you with this. Lead with love, not from fear. We know owners that beat their dogs, eventually their dogs run away. When you lead from the vision, lead from love, and treat someone, speak to them from the vision, not your current circumstances. Lead from the vision of where you're going, who you're becoming, and lead from love. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all and talk to you next week.